Good morning. It's Tuesday morning, July 28th, and we'll be looking at the chapter 14 in the Gospel of Luke. So in chapter 14, Jesus heals on the Sabbath again in full view of the Pharisees. He's actually at a Pharisee's home at this point, where he heals a man with an ailment that they call they don't even say what it is. So dropsy, they call it dropsy in there. So there's the what the man is afflicted with, and he heals on the Sabbath. And then there are 3 vignettes in this chapter. There's a dinner party scene on the Sabbath where he heals this man, and then the guests. He noticed how the guests took the place of honor. So Jesus makes a healing, he gets criticized, then he notices something, how the guests took the places of honor. So he does a teaching about that. And he says kind of a parable about humility. When you're invited by someone to a wedding banquet, do not sit down at the place of honor in case someone more distinguished than you should show up, but take the lowest place, and then you'll be asked to move to a more distinguished place. I understand that is what Jesus says, but we don't practice that here, right? Am I wrong? I mean, these are hard passages to accept because that's an old-fashioned way of thinking. No. We want the respect and acknowledgement due us constantly. Constantly. I mean, I'm guilty of it. My kid is guilty of it. People are everywhere. We're everywhere guilty of it. People should not be subjected to injustice. But at the same time, this sort of like, I deserve this respect because of arbitrary things that you can't control, like your age or your race or something like that. So Jesus really poking at that tender spot in a lot of us that has to do with our place in society. So, the gentry and the common folk. And, we are the former rather than the latter. So he's talking about your place. And all throughout history, Christianity, they ignored this part. They really didn't look into it. So I'm leaning into this today. It's a hard lesson for me. It's a hard lesson for you. But I hope you will think about how you would seek to exalt yourself and that God will exalt you instead. So this is about humility and hospitality. And he said to the one who invited him, when you give a luncheon or a dinner, this is who you ought to invite. So he's changing the subject a little bit in his teaching to say that you don't need to invite the people that could repay you with an invitation towards you, so it's reciprocal, but invite people that can't repay you, and then your reward will be in heaven. And there's so many applications for this, not just for dinner and what you do for others. It's just so many applications for the way we do things that are so transactional in our world. And Jesus is like, that's really not what it's about. You give love away, unbidden and unrequited. Just give it away. Give it away. The agape love. Then, in the same context, he tells the great dinner parable. The parable about the people who were invited to the banquet, and they all had an excuse of why they couldn't come because they're just too important to be there. And so he told the person holding the banquet told the servants to go out and invite anybody that will take the invitation. And so he did, and they came, and there was still enough space and food for everyone. So he just says, go out and invite anybody you can get. It was beautiful, beautiful parable. And those 3 things are all told around this table at this Pharisee's home. So they all really go together. We'll section them out from time to time, but they really do go together in one section. And then there's a new section. The crowds are with him. He's not at dinner at the Pharisee's house anymore. And he talks about the cost of discipleship. This is another section. I mean, all of Luke 14, I guess we ignore. This is a big section that has been ignored. I mean, when you think about evangelism, how people have over the centuries tried to convert others to Christianity, they never put this part in. Jesus talks again and again about consider the cost of following me. You don't know what it's going to be like, so you need to consider it. You need to sit down, and this is only true for Luke. This is a Luke exclusive, where he says, intending to build a tower, you don't first sit down and estimate the cost and see whether you have enough to complete it. Otherwise, you've laid the foundation, you might not be able to finish it. So he's talking about sitting down and making sure you know what you're getting into. Or a king will go to wage war against another king and not count how many soldiers he has versus how many soldiers the other king has. You would not do that. You would consider the cost, and you'd be very mindful of that before you went into it. So I said that there was a line between the parables of the dinners and the cost of discipleship, but in reality they go together, don't they? If you want to be this disciple of mine, you will not ask for the top place. You will invite people who you might feel are undesirable or that can't at least repay your compliment of invitation. And you will also consider these things that I've told you around the dinner table before you follow me. Think about what you're getting yourself into to follow me into this kingdom of God, where you're going to be asked to do the things that he was teaching them at that dinner. The very last section of this chapter, and I think it ties all of it in together. Salt is good, but if salt lost its taste, how is its saltiness restored? It is neither fit for the soil nor the manure pile, then throw it away. If you're not practicing the teachings that he has in the front end of this chapter, then you don't have the saltiness to carry on building the tower or waging war as a king. The things that he says you should be doing. He talks about it first was if you don't hate your family, and that's similar to the turn, puts her hand to the plow and then turns back, or first let me bury my father. There's the same passage, but then this Luke expands it. And that's things about hating your mother and father, and your father, mother, wife, and children, brothers and sisters, even life itself, and carrying your cross and following me. Those are all in the 3 Gospels, but this one about the tower and then the king waging war is just in Luke. And I think it brings home the point more, and then the saltiness ties it all together. We are to be the salt. It says in the other Gospels, we are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its flavor, what good is it? So we have to remember the teachings and be about that in the world to be in the kingdom of God. Have a beautiful day.